How does a man go into the bloodiest battle of the Pacific without a weapon? In 1945, the US Army called Desmond Doss a coward and a misfit. They tried to court-martial him just for holding on to his beliefs. But by the time the smoke cleared on Hacksaw Ridge, he was the only thing standing between 75 wounded men and certain death. 75 men, one cliff, 0 bullets. Hacksaw Ridge isn't just a war movie, it's a masterclass in what happens when conviction meets a crisis. Most of us fold under pressure, but Doss stood firm. Here's the battle plan for faith that we can learn from his incredible true story. I've been meditating on this movie lately, and I realized it's more than a war film. It's a blueprint for a living faith. What makes it inspiring, stirring, and challenging was the fact that it is a biopic of an actual person. Today, we're breaking down the 5 powerful faith lessons from Hacksaw Ridge that will change the way you face your own battle. In a world that follows the path of least resistance, Desmond Doss was an anomaly. You see, most of us treat our convictions like a garment. We wear them when they're comfortable, but we take them off the moment the heat of life becomes too much to bear. When Doss arrived at Fort Jackson, he wasn't just fighting for his country, he was fighting for the integrity of his soul. His fellow soldiers didn't just disagree with him, they hated him. They saw his refusal to carry a weapon as a weakness that would get them all killed. He was mocked, he was beaten in the middle of the night, and he was threatened with a court-martial that would have landed him in a military prison. But here is the truth we often miss. Conviction isn't conviction until it costs you something. If your beliefs only show up when they are convenient, they aren't beliefs, they're just preferences. Doss had a shipyard deferment. He could have stayed home. He could have just played along and held a rifle to stop the bullying, but he understood a deep spiritual law. If you don't stand for something in the quiet moments of the training camp, you will surely fall in the chaos of the battlefield. Faith is not a jacket you take off when it gets hot. Expounding on this, we have to ask ourselves, where are we choosing convenience over Christ? It's easy to be a person of faith when you're surrounded by friends. But Doss teaches us that the real work of faith happens when you are the only one in the room who refuses to compromise. He didn't hold his ground to be difficult. He held his ground because he knew that if he broke his promise to God, he would be empty inside. And an empty man has nothing to give when the world starts falling apart around him. Lesson 1 is a call to audit our own lives. Are you following the crowd because it's safe? Or are you following your calling because it's true? Remember, the world doesn't need more people who fit in. It needs people who are so anchored in their conviction that even a war can't move them. Lesson 2. The battle was over. The retreat had been called. On top of Hacksaw Ridge, the only things left were smoke, the enemy, and the dying. Desmond Doss was alone. He looked out at a field of wounded men who had beaten him and called him a coward, and he faced a choice that would define him forever. Imagine the weight of that moment. If Doss had looked at the total number, 75 men, he would have been paralyzed. The math was impossible. The strength required was more than any human possessed. If you look at the mountain of your own life, the debt, the grief, the brokenness, you know exactly how he felt. You feel the urge to turn back because the hole is just too heavy. But Doss didn't look at the 75. He looked at the one. He lowered one man down that 400-foot cliff. And when he was finished, his hands bleeding and his muscles screaming, he didn't ask God for the strength to save a company. He whispered a 6-word prayer that has since echoed through history. Lord, please help me get one more. Just one more. This is the one more principle of faith. We often fail because we try to solve our entire future in a single night. We try to fix a 10-year problem in 10 minutes. But God rarely gives us the strength for the whole journey at once. He gives us the manna for today. He gives us the lamp for the next step. Expounding on this, we see that one more is an act of total surrender. It's saying, God, I don't know how I'm gonna get through this year, but with your help, I can get through this hour. I don't know how to forgive a lifetime of hurt, but I can choose not to speak a bitter word in this one moment. Doss repeated that prayer for 12 hours, through the night, through the pain, through the fear of discovery. 75 times the prayer was the same. He didn't need a grand strategy, he just needed a next step faith. What is your one more? Maybe you aren't called to save 75 people today. Maybe you're just called to offer one more word of encouragement, to stay sober for one more day, or to fall on your knees for one more minute. Don't worry about the ridge. Just ask him for the strength for the one in front of you. Lesson 3. When Desmond Doss stood before the military board, they tried to label him a conscientious objector, but Doss politely disagreed. He didn't want to object to the mission. He wanted to cooperate with a higher calling. He called himself a conscientious cooperator. There's a profound difference between the two. An objector often pulls away, removes themselves from the mess, and stays in the safety of the sidelines. But a cooperator enters the mess with a different set of tools. Doss didn't want to sit out the war. He wanted to be in the thick of it, not to take life, but to save it. As believers, we are often told to be in the world, but not of it. But how do we actually do that when the world feels like a battlefield? Doss shows us the way. He didn't demand that the army change its mission to suit him. He changed the way he fulfilled the mission to suit God. Expounding on this, we see that your faith isn't meant to be a shield that hides you from reality. It's meant to be the motivation that drives you into the places where people are hurting the most. The conscientious cooperator doesn't walk around with a holier-than-thou attitude. Instead, they ask, how can I serve this environment without losing my soul? How can I help my team, my family, or my workplace reach its goal while still keeping my hands clean and my heart pure? Doss proved that you don't have to be a combatant to be a hero. You can be a peacemaker in the middle of a war zone. You can be a person of grace in a culture of cancellation. You can be a cooperator with the mission of humanity while remaining an objector to the spirit of hate. Don't just walk away from the difficult places in your life. Ask God how you can cooperate with His plan to bring healing to that very spot. Lesson 4. At the beginning of his journey, Desmond Doss was the most hated man in his barracks. They didn't just disagree with him, they mocked him. They threw boots at him while he prayed, and they beat him in the dark. They saw his kindness as a usefulness that had no place in war. His captain even told him to his face, "I don't think you have what it takes." Centuries before Doss ever stepped onto a battlefield, the Apostle Paul gave a young leader named Timothy a piece of advice for when he felt looked down upon. He said, "Let no one despise your youth, but be an example to the believers in word, in conduct, in love, in spirit, in faith, in purity." Doss lived this verse to the letter. He didn't demand respect. He commanded it through his conduct. He didn't write a manifesto or argue theology in the mess hall. He simply outserved them. He knew that the only way to stop people from despising his convictions was to make those convictions the very thing that saved their lives. Expounding on this, we see that trust is built in drops, but lost in buckets. Doss built trust drop by drop. Every time he took a hit without striking back, and finally, every time he crawled through the mud to save a man who had previously spat on him. He proved that being an example of the believer isn't about being perfect. It's about being consistent when the pressure is on. By the end of the film, the commanding officer who tried to kick him out of the army stands before him and says, "I've never been more wrong about a man in my life." That is the power of a life well lived. If you feel low or despised for your faith today, don't focus on changing their minds with your words. Focus on serving them with your life. Eventually, the weight of your character will break through the wall of their prejudice. Doss didn't win them over by being right, he won them over by being righteous. The greatest apology a critic can give you isn't "I'm sorry," it's "I trust you." Lesson 5. There is a moment in Hacksaw Ridge where the hero is no longer a hero. He's just a man. He's covered in the blood of his friends and the mud of the ridge. His hands are shredded by the rope. His muscles are seizing, and he is physically, mentally, and emotionally bankrupt. We've all been there. That moment where you feel you've given everything you have and the world asks for more. The moment when your faith feels like a dry well. What do you do when you are too tired to even hope? Doss didn't dig deeper into his own willpower. He dug deeper into his God. He understood that prayer isn't just for the quiet time. It is a survival tool for the trenches. The Bible tells us in Isaiah that those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. Expounding on this, we see that Doss's strength was borrowed. Every time he went back for one more, he was running on heaven's fuel. He was praying through the exhaustion. He wasn't asking for the pain to stop. He was asking for the strength to endure it. True faith doesn't mean you never get tired. It means you know who to go to when you are. Doss proved that a man who kneels before God can stand before anything. He showed us that when your human runs out, God's supernatural is just getting started. So if you're exhausted today, if you're tired of being the only one standing for what's right, or tired of a battle that won't end, take a breath. Stop looking at your empty hands and look at his provided strength. Like Desmond Doss, keep the conversation with God going, even when your voice is a whisper. Because the ridge isn't won by the strongest. It's won by the ones who refuse to let go of the one who is strongest. Desmond Doss went to war to save lives, and in doing so, he showed us how to live ours. Which of these lessons spoke to your heart today? Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and pray for whatever ridge you're climbing right now.